In at number 5, I've got Dan Hooker. I think Dan Hooker is going to beat Benoit Saint-Denis and then maybe beat a Money Moicano later on in the year. Moving on to number 4 is Charles Oliveira. I think Oliveira is going to lose to Max Holloway in their rematch, but I do think he does get a win in 2026. It might even be against Dan Hooker, or it could even be that matchup he was meant to have against Rafael Fiziev. But I think Oliveira will be ranked number 4 in the lightweight division by the end of 2026. Moving on, in at number 3 is Paddy Pimblett. I think Paddy Pimblett is going to beat Justin Gaethje, become the UFC lightweight champion. I actually think Paddy Pimblett is going to retire Justin Gaethje at UFC 324, but Paddy Pimblett will eventually lose the belt, and we'll get on to that as we go up the rankings. In at number 2, I've got Max Holloway. I think Holloway is going to TKO Charles Oliveira in either rounds 3 or rounds 4. That will then push him up into the rankings, and when Paddy Pimblett eventually loses the belt later in the year, I think Max Holloway will then jump above him in the rankings. And in at number 1, we've got Ilia Topuria. Now, I've got Ilia Topuria here because I don't think Ilia is going to fight in 2026 at all. And by the time Paddy Pimblett fights Justin Gaethje, I think it will be for the undisputed lightweight title. And then the champion of lightweight by the end of 2026 is going to be Arman Tsarukyan. I think Paddy beats Gaethje, then he fights Arman maybe September, August time, and that's where Arman Tsarukyan becomes lightweight champion. Moving on, we have got the featherweight division. I've got Yair Rodriguez in at 5. I don't know how this guy is ranked inside of the top 5 right now, but the UFC love this guy so much, I don't understand why. So I'm going to keep him in a 5. I don't even know if he'll fight this year or who he'll fight, but the UFC have an obsession with Yair Rodriguez, so he will be in the top 5. Moving on, in at number 4, I have got Gene Silva. I think Gene Silva is going to have a good year this year. I think Gene Silva TKOs Arnold Allen at UFC 324, and he might even get a win over Yair Rodriguez later on in the year, but Gene Silva will definitely be inside of the top 5. In at number 3, I have got Lerone Murphy. Lerone Murphy is unfortunately going to lose his unbeaten record this year. I think Lerone Murphy fights Aljamain Sterling at UFC Fight Night London, and I think Aljamain Sterling beats Lerone Murphy. That's why in at number 2, I have Aljamain Sterling. And in at number 1, I have got Diego Lopez. I don't think Lopez beats Volkanovski in the rematch, but I still do think he will pick up a win, maybe against a Steve Garcia. That could be a fun fight. He might even beat Lerone Murphy, or he might get that matchup against Yair Rodriguez, which is a fight that needs to happen in 2026. But the champion in featherweight by the end of 2026 is going to be Movsar Evloev, in my opinion. I think this guy will beat Volkanovski in the later half of the year. I think Movsar is the best featherweight right now in the UFC. Moving on, we have got the welterweight division. The welterweight division is the best it's ever been. And there's some controversial takes in here, I'm going to be honest. In at number 5, we have got Joaquin Buckley. Moving on, in at number 4, we have got Carlos Prates. And in at number 3, we have got former welterweight champion JDM. I think JDM and Carlos Prates will fight this year. Again, another fight that needs to happen. It's a banger matchup, and I know bangers. And I think JDM would win that fight. In at number 2, we have got Michael Morales. I don't think Michael Morales will fight for the title next. I think he will have to have one more fight. And I can see them doing Michael Morales against Belal Muhammad. And I think Michael Morales smokes Belal Muhammad. I actually think he finds the stoppage against Belal Muhammad. In at number 1, we have got Ian Gary. Ian Gary is going to fight for the title this year. Ian Gary has a very good chance to beat Islam Makhachev, in my opinion. But I am going to go with Islam Makhachev remaining the champion of the welterweight division. This right here is the top 5 for welterweight by the end of 2026. You might be saying, where's Shavkat? Who the fuck is that guy? Mr. Inactive, Joaquin Buckley is beating Shavkat Rakhmonov. I'm calling it right now. Moving on to the middleweight division. Again, some controversial takes with this division, but in at number 5, I have got RDR. He had a really good 2025. Obviously, the Brendan Allen loss doesn't look great with the way he lost, but it's a big weight cut for RDR, and he was very active. I think he will beat Caio Borralho. I think Borralho is overrated, in my opinion. The Jared Cannonier win, yes, is good, but that was Cannonier coming off that loss to Imavov, and outside of that, his best win is what? Paul Craig? Not the best. In at number 4, I have got Brendan Allen. I actually think Brendan Allen is pretty underrated, to be honest. In at number 3 is Imavov. I think Imavov is one of the most underrated fighters on the UFC's roster right now. I think he will get the shot at the middleweight title this year. Unfortunately, I don't think he wins. In at number 2, I have got Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland will TKO Anthony Hernandez, which will then put him out of the rankings because RDR will beat Caio Borralho. Anthony Hernandez will lose to Sean Strickland, and RDR will maybe jump him up in the rankings. Also, even if they do RDR against Anthony Hernandez, RDR will also TKO Anthony Hernandez. But in a number 2, I have went with Sean Strickland, and number 1 is Khamzat Chimaev. Now, if Khamzat stays at middleweight, he will be champion. I don't think this guy can be beat at middleweight, but I think he beats Imavov this year and then makes the move to light heavyweight, and I think he loses at light heavyweight. Just my opinion. I think he loses at light heavyweight, which then means he doesn't get ranked in the light heavyweight division and will drop down into the number 1 spot at middleweight, which means I have Dricus du Plessis becoming middleweight champion. I know this is a controversial one, but he is the second best middleweight in my opinion. It's between him and Imavov, but I just think if Imavov and DDP fight, DDP has the more will to win in my opinion, which will just drag him over the line, just get him over the line above Imavov. So that's what I'm going for. This is the top 5 of the middleweight division. Moving on, we have got the heavyweight division. Now this was a tough one. I have got Waldo Cortez Acosta in at number 5. I think there's a chance we see this guy fight for the title. I think he beats Derek Lewis at UFC 324. Moving on in at number 4 is Almeida. I can see Almeida beating a Pavlovich. Pavlovich is not the same fighter anymore. He doesn't have that aura. He doesn't have that thing about him anymore. He's just not the same fighter after Tom Aspinall put him on a t-shirt. In at number 3, I've gone for Volkov again. Very likely he fights for the title this year. I don't think he wins it though. In at number 2, I have got Cyril Gane. Now that they've said they're not going to do Pereira Jones at the White House, I think now that Aspinall's getting his eyes done, surgery on his eyes, we don't know how long he's going to be out for. I think there is a high chance that they run this matchup, Gane versus Pereira. I think Pereira will beat Cyril Gane. I don't know if that's a controversial take or not. I just think Pereira will win this matchup. I don't think Gane has the real grappling threat that will cause Pereira a lot of problems. And on the feet, I just think Pereira is a better striker. And in the number 1, I've got Pereira. I think he will become interim champion. But the champion by the end of 2026 will be Tom Aspinall. He beats everybody in the heavyweight division. I know a lot of people try and get on like Gane 10-7'd him. It didn't happen. Aspinall will come back. He'll beat Pereira when he's the interim champion. He'll beat Gane. He'll beat Almeida. He'll beat Volkov. He'll beat Waldo Cortez Acosta. There is no real threat, in my opinion, to Tom Aspinall. Moving on to the Bantamweight division. And again, an absolutely stacked division. Another tough one to pick. But I've got Amian Zahabi in here at 5. It could have been either him or Mario Batista, but I went for Amian Zahabi. And moving on to the number 4 spot is Corey Sandhagen. I can see these two guys fighting this year, by the way. In at number 3, I've got Sean O'Malley. I think O'Malley will beat Song Yadong. In at number 2, I have got Petr Yan. And in at number 1 is Umar Nurmagomedov, which means the champion by the end of 2026 is going to be back to being Merab. I think Merab will beat Yan in the trilogy. And the UFC love Umar Nurmagomedov. That they just love this guy. They're planning on they want to have him as champion. They'll love to do the Merab, why am I blanking on his name? Merab Umar rematch, sorry. It was a banger matchup at UFC 311. They'll do everything in their power to try and make this fight happen again. So when Yan loses the trilogy, he will then drop down into number 2, and because Umar will have the win over Figueiredo, they will then jump him up into number 1 to justify doing the rematch. Moving on to the Flyweight division, we have got Horiguchi coming in at number 5. Number 4, Brandon Royval. Number 3, Manel Kape. 2, I have got the current flyweight champion in Joshua Van. Number 1, I've got Tatsuro Taira. Now, this depends on what way the UFC go and how long Pantoja is going to be out for. If they do Van versus Manel Kape next, I think Van wins that fight. If they do Tatsuro Taira versus Van next, I think Tatsuro wins that fight. But the champion at the end will be Pantoja. Pantoja will regain his flyweight title by the end of the year. And moving on to the light heavyweight division, I've got crafty old veteran Volkan Oezdemir taking the number 5 spot. I mean, this guy is just getting wins. I think he's good. He's not the best. He's not championship level, but the light heavyweight division is really dead at the minute, and I think he can creep into the 5 spot, especially with Pereira moving up. In the number 4, I've went with Khalil Roundtree Jr. I think he will get a win. I think he would beat a Volkan Oezdemir, to be honest. Or he'd beat a Dominic Reyes. Or I think he would win against Johnny Walker in the rematch. But I'm going to put Khalil in at number 4. In at number 3, I've got Asmat Mirzakhanov. I think this guy's really good. Coming off a really good win over Rakic. I think he'd beat either one of these guys, by the way. I think he'd knock out Khalil. Or he would stop Volkan Oezdemir. I'm putting him in at number 3. Number 2, I have went with Carlos Ulberg. I think Ulberg will fight for the light heavyweight title this year, but lose. In the number 1 is Ankalaev. I know a lot of people kind of shit on Ankalaev now because of the performance against Pereira in the rematch, but Ankalaev is still levels above everybody on screen right now. But the champion, let's go for that. This is how legends are made. I'm going for Yuri Prohaska. Beats Carlos Ulberg for the interim title or vacant title if Pereira just instantly moves up. And then I think he beats a Khamzat Chimaev when Khamzat moves up. I don't know if that's a controversial take. I think Yuri would beat him. But those are the top 5 rankings for every single UFC weight class. Happy New Year to everybody. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And as always, like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And I'll see you all again in the next one.